My wife called me a pathetic control freak for not inviting her ex to our wedding, then let her friends vote at her bachelorette party on whether she should dump my insecure ass. When my parents defended me, she told them they raised a jealous shiksh. Her mom texted that I need to learn my place, and my parents should have taught me better. She grabbed my wrist and said, "You're lucky I even accept your proposal," then gave me an ultimatum. Post a public apology for embarrassing her or the wedding's off. She even posted our private texts calling me psycho. But she has no idea what I just did. The restaurant was one of those places where silence cost extra. White tablecloths that whispered when the waiter moved, candles that flickered just enough to make everyone look like they were starring in their own romantic movie, and a wine list thick enough to be used as a weapon. I remember thinking that as I sat there, watching my fiance laugh at something her mother said, her hand resting on the stem of a glass that cost more than my first car. I remember thinking a lot of things that night, actually, and most of them I wish I could forget. It started with a simple question, one of those deceptively simple questions that feels like a conversation starter, but is actually a landmine wrapped in small talk. So, Jessica's mother, Patricia, though she preferred Trish in that way that certain women of a certain age and income bracket always do, leaned forward with that smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Have you finalized the guest list yet?" Jessica glanced at me. There was something in that glance, something I'd been seeing more and more lately, but kept telling myself I was imagining. A kind of C calculation. Like she was measuring distances, weighing outcomes, deciding something I wasn't privy to. "We're getting close," I said, trying to keep my voice light, trying to sound like a man who was excited about his wedding and not like someone who had been having the same argument for 3 weeks straight. "Just a few more people to confirm." "And Marcus?" Trish asked, and there it was. The name that had become a third person in our relationship, an invisible guest at every dinner, every conversation, every moment that should have been just about us. Marcus, her ex. The one who came up in conversation the way some people mention the weather, casually, frequently, as if it were the most natural thing in the world to discuss your former boyfriend with your current fiance. The one whose photos still populated her Instagram likes. The one who texted her thinking of you messages at 11 p.m. that she swore were just friendly. The one who apparently absolutely had to be at our wedding. "Marcus isn't invited," I said quietly. I could feel my parents shift in their seats across from us. My father, retired military, straightened his spine in that way he does when he senses conflict. My mother's hand found her water glass. The silence that followed was the expensive kind, the kind that comes before something breaks. Jessica set down her fork with a precision that made it sound like a gavel. "We've talked about this." "We have," I agreed, "multiple times. And every time, my answer is the same. Your answer." She laughed, but it wasn't the laugh I'd fallen in love with 3 years ago. This was something else, something sharp. "Listen to yourself. Your answer. As if this wedding is only about you." "Just no." She held up a hand. "I'm tired of this, honestly. I'm exhausted. Do you know how embarrassing it is to have to explain to my friends why you're so insecure that you can't even let me invite someone I was friends with before I even met you?" Friends, that word again. As if friendship fully explained why she'd kept every gift he'd ever given her, why his contact in her phone still had a heart emoji, why she'd spent 2 hours on a video call with him last month just catching up, while I sat in the next room pretending not to hear her laugh at his jokes. "This isn't about insecurity," I said, very carefully. "This is about boundaries. This is about your pathetic need to control everything." Her voice had risen now. People at nearby tables were starting to glance over, probably hoping for drama to go with their entrees. "That's what this is about. You're a pathetic control freak who can't stand that I have a life that existed before you came into it." The words hit like a slap. Pathetic. Control freak. Said loud enough for my parents to hear. Loud enough for strangers to hear. Said with a kind of venom that made me wonder if she'd been holding them in for a while, waiting for the right moment to let them fly. My mother made a small sound. My father's jaw tightened. "Jessica," my dad said, his voice carrying that tone that used to make junior officers stand straighter. "That's uncalled for." She turned to him. and I saw something cross her face that I'd never seen before. Not just anger, something colder. Something that had been there all along, maybe hiding behind the smiles and the I love yous and all those moments I'd thought were building toward forever. Respectfully, Mr. Mitchell, she said, and the word respectfully carried about as much respect as a middle finger. Maybe you should have raised your son to be less jealous. Maybe if you and your wife had taught him that a woman having male friends doesn't mean she's cheating, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The air left the table, just left, like the universe had inhaled and forgotten to breathe back out. My mother's face went pale. My father's went red. I felt something crack inside my chest, some fundamental piece of how I understood the world and the person I'd planned to spend my life with. Jessica. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded like it was coming from very far away. Apologize, right now. For what? She tilted her head, and I realized with a horrible clarity that she was enjoying this. For telling the truth? For pointing out that your parents raised a jealous, she used a word I won't repeat here, a word you don't use in front of someone's parents, a word that made my mother actually flinch. That word hung in the air like smoke from a fire you can't put out. My father stood, slowly, deliberately, with the kind of controlled movement that comes from decades of military discipline. We're leaving, he said to my mother. Then, to me, son, you can stay if you want, but we won't sit here and be disrespected. They left. I watched them go, my father's hand on my mother's back, guiding her through the restaurant while other diners pretended not to stare. My mother, who'd spent the last 6 months planning little touches for the wedding, who'd called Jessica the daughter I never had, walked out with her shoulders shaking in a way that meant she was crying and trying not to show it. Jessica took a sip of her wine. Well, she said, that was dramatic. I looked at her, really looked at her. At this woman I'd proposed to on a beach in Maui, at this woman whose coffee order I knew by heart, at this woman who now sat across from me, looking vaguely annoyed that my parents had dared to be hurt by her words. Do you understand what you just did? I asked quietly. I told them the truth. She shrugged. Maybe it's harsh, but someone needed to say it. You are jealous, you are controlling, and honestly, babe, if you can't get over this whole Marcus thing, I don't know what to tell you. Her mother cleared her throat. I'd almost forgotten she was there. Jessica's right, Trish said, fixing me with a look that could freeze vodka. You do need to learn your place. My daughter's doing you a favor by marrying you. The least you could do is not embarrass her in front of her friends by being so obviously insecure. Learn my place. The phrase echoed in my skull like a bell I couldn't unhear. And frankly, Trish continued, warming to her theme now, your parents should have taught you better. A real man doesn't feel threatened by his woman's past. A real man trusts her, this woman. This woman who'd smiled at me over brunch 2 months ago and said she was so blessed to have me as a future son-in-law. This woman who'd hugged me at Christmas and called me family. This woman now sat there telling me I needed to learn my place. I stood up. Where are you going? Jessica asked. I'm home, I said. I need to think. About what? About whether I want to marry someone who talks to my parents like that. About whether I want to marry someone who thinks I need to learn my place. She laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, please, you're not going anywhere. You're going to calm down, realize you're overreacting, and we're going to get past this like we always do. Like we always do, I repeated. You mean like how you always push until I give in? Like how every boundary I try to set gets called controlling? Like how wanting basic respect in my own relationship makes me pathetic? If the shoe fits, she examined her nails. I put $200 on the table, enough to cover my parents' meals and mine because I'm not an asshole, and walked out of that restaurant. My phone started buzzing before I even reached my car. Jessica calling, then texting, then calling again. The text started out annoyed. You're seriously going to make a scene? This is so typical of you. You're proving my point right now. Then they shifted to something else. Babe, come back. Let's talk about this. You know I love you. I didn't respond to any of them. I drove to my parents' house instead, found them in the living room, my mother with tissues, my father with that look on his face like he was strategizing a campaign. I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry she spoke to you like that. My mother shook her head. Don't you dare apologize for her, honey. Don't you dare. She's stressed about the wedding. I heard myself say, and hated how automatic it was. How many times had I made excuses for her? How many times had I smoothed over her sharp edges, explained away her cruelty as stress or not meaning it or just being honest? Son, my father's voice cut through my spiral. A woman who truly loves you doesn't humiliate you in public. She doesn't insult your family. And she sure as hell doesn't tell your parents they raised you wrong. I know, I whispered. Do you? My mother leaned forward. Because from where I'm sitting, you've been making excuses for her behavior for months now. The way she talks to you, the way she dismisses your feelings, the way she keeps this Marcus person around like he's some kind of security blanket. She says they're just friends. And maybe they are, my dad said. But a woman who respects her partner doesn't make him constantly question whether he's being reasonable. She doesn't call him pathetic for having boundaries. I stayed at my parents' house that night. Jessica called 17 times, left 8 voicemails, sent 43 texts that ranged from angry to pleading to angry again. I didn't listen to the voicemails, didn't read most of the texts. I just lay in my childhood bedroom, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd put on the ceiling when I was 10, and wondered how I'd gotten here. How does anyone get to the place where the person they love treats them like an inconvenience? Where setting a boundary makes you controlling? Where asking for basic respect makes you pathetic? I didn't sleep much. And when my phone buzzed at 7 a.m. with a text from Jessica's mother, I almost didn't read it, but I did. You need to learn your place. Your parents should have taught you better. Jessica is the best thing that ever happened to you. And if you can't see that, you don't deserve her. Apologize to her today, or don't bother coming to the wedding. The wedding. Our wedding. The wedding that was apparently conditional on my obedience. I sat up in bed, phone in hand, and something in me just settled, like tumblers in a lock finally aligning, like a decision making itself. I didn't respond to Trish. Instead, I got up, showered, and made a phone call to the one person I knew would tell me the truth without sugarcoating it. My best friend Tyler, who'd been skeptical of Jessica from the start but kept his mouth shut because that's what good friends do. She said what to your parents? Tyler's voice went flat. Man, I'm coming over. Tyler showed up an hour later with coffee and the kind of grim expression that meant he was already planning something. We sat in my parents' backyard, the morning sun making everything look deceptively peaceful. You need to end this, he said without preamble. The engagement? The whole thing. This isn't love, man. I don't even know what this is, but it's not love. She texted this morning, I said. Said she wants to talk. Of course she does. She wants to smooth it over, make you think you overreacted, get you back in line. You make it sound like I'm in a cult. Aren't you kind of? Tyler raised an eyebrow. Think about it. She isolates you from opinions she doesn't like. She punishes you for having boundaries. She makes you question your own reality. She demands absolute loyalty while giving none. That's textbook emotional manipulation. I wanted to argue, wanted to defend her, but the words wouldn't come because he wasn't wrong. My phone buzzed. Jessica. Can we please talk? I'm coming over. She's coming here, I said. To your parents' house? The place where she insulted your parents? Apparently. Tyler shook his head. This is going to be interesting. She arrived 20 minutes later, pulling up in her white BMW like she was making an entrance. I met her on the front porch, not wanting her inside my parents' house. Not after last night. Hey, she said, and her voice was soft, vulnerable, nothing like the knife-sharp thing it had been at dinner. Can we talk? Here's fine. Her eyes flicked to Tyler, sitting visible through the window. Alone? No. Something crossed her face. Irritation, quickly masked. Babe, I'm trying to fix this. By apologizing to my parents? She bit her lip in that way she knew I used to find endearing. I may have overreacted last night. I was stressed and you called me pathetic, I said flatly. In front of my parents, in front of strangers. You used a slur to describe me to my parents' faces. Your mother told me I need to learn my place. She was upset on my behalf. She told me my parents failed at raising me, Jess. You both did. And now you're here, but I don't hear an apology. I hear excuses. Her expression shifted. The vulnerability flickered off like a switched light. Fine, you want me to apologize. I'm sorry. There. I'm sorry that you can't handle the truth. I'm sorry that you're so insecure. You can't let me invite an old friend to our wedding. And I'm sorry that your parents are so overprotective. They made you this way. That's not an apology. That's the only one you're getting. She crossed her arms. Look, we can either move past this or we can keep dwelling on it. But I'm having my bachelorette party this weekend, and I'm not going to let your drama ruin it. My drama. Yes, your drama, your jealousy, your control issues. She stepped closer, and her voice dropped to something almost pitying. Baby, I love you. But you need to get over this. You're lucky I even accept your proposal, you know that? I could have anyone. I chose you. The least you can do is not make me regret it. You're lucky I even accept your proposal. The words landed like stones in water, rippling outward, spreading cold. She grabbed my wrist, not gently. Her fingers pressed into my skin hard enough to leave marks. I need you to do something for me. I need you to post a public apology. A what? An apology. On social media. For embarrassing me, for being controlling, for making our relationship about your insecurity instead of our love. Her grip tightened. If you don't, the wedding's off. I looked down at her hand on my wrist, at her perfectly manicured nails digging into my skin, at this person I thought I knew, thought I loved, showing me exactly who she was. Let go of me, I said quietly. Not until you agree. Jessica, let go. She did, but not before giving one final squeeze that I knew would bruise. You have until Sunday to post it. That's 3 days. If you don't, I'm calling off the wedding and telling everyone exactly why. That you're a jealous, controlling, psychotic asshole who couldn't handle his fiancée having a life before him. She walked back to her car, paused with her hand on the door. And just so you know, I'm going to have my friends vote at my bachelorette party this weekend. We're going to discuss whether I should dump your insecure ass. Democracy in action. She drove away. Tyler came outside. Please tell me you're done. I looked at the red marks on my wrist. Looked at the driveway where her car had been. Looked at my friend who'd driven over without question because that's what love actually looks like. Showing up, no conditions, no demands. I need to make a call, I said. The call was to Jake Sanders, a private investigator Tyler had used when he suspected his business partner of embezzlement. Jake was thorough, discreet, and expensive. He was also available. You want me to look into your fiancé? Jake's voice crackled through the phone. Ex-fiancé, probably. And yes, I want to know everything. Her finances, her social media, her relationship with this Marcus guy, all of it. That's going to take a few days, minimum. She's having her bachelorette party this weekend. I need whatever you can find by Monday. Rush job costs extra. I don't care. I gave him all the information he needed. Jessica's full name, her socials, her mother's name, Marcus's name, everything I could think of. Then I hung up and looked at Tyler. Now what? He asked. Now I wait and document. Document what? Everything I started that day. Screenshots of every text she sent, every social media post, every voicemail. I created a folder on my laptop labeled Jessica Timeline and began organizing it all chronologically. The progression from sweet to cruel, from loving to contemptuous, from partnership to dictatorship. It was harder than I thought it would be, looking at it all laid out like that. Like watching time-lapse footage of a flower wilting. Here was us at the beginning, all laughter and late-night conversations. Here was 6 months in, the first time she called me too sensitive. Here was a year in, the first time Marcus came up and she got defensive. Here was 18 months, the first time she yelled at me in front of friends. 2 years, the first time she threatened to leave if I didn't do what she wanted. When had I become someone who accepted this? The weekend came, Jessica's bachelorette party. She'd rented a house upstate, invited 15 of her friends, planned 3 days of activities that she'd stopped consulting me about weeks ago. She posted constantly on Instagram, videos of them drinking champagne, playing games, dancing to music so loud you could probably hear it in the next county. And then Saturday night came the post that changed everything. It was a video. Jessica, slightly drunk, standing in front of her assembled friends with a microphone in one hand and a drink in the other. Okay, ladies, she announced, and the room full of women cheered. Time for a little democracy. As you all know, my fiancé, she said the word with air quotes and a roll of her eyes, is being a total psycho about me inviting Marcus to the wedding. So I want to take a vote. Should I dump his insecure ass or give him one more chance to get his shit together? Laughter. Cheering. Someone yelled, "Dump him!" Jessica grinned. "Okay, all in favor of me staying with Mr. Jealousy Issues, raise your hand." A few hands went up. Maybe 3 or 4, hard to tell from the video. And all in favor of me finding someone who isn't a controlling freak? More hands. Definitely more hands. The room erupted in whoops and hollers. "The people have spoken," Jessica declared. And the video ended with her taking a dramatic bow while her friends applauded. She'd posted it publicly. Not on a private story, not to a close friends list. Publicly, where anyone could see it, where my family could see it, where my friends could see it, where my coworkers could see it. She'd tagged me. My phone started blowing up immediately. My cousin asking if we were okay. Tyler sending a series of increasingly angry texts. My mother calling, her voice shaking. And strangers, complete strangers, commenting on the post with everything from, "You deserve better, girl," to, "Holy shit, this is brutal." But Jessica wasn't done. At 11 p.m. Saturday night, she posted screenshots, our private text conversations, messages where I'd asked her why she needed to text Marcus so late, messages where I'd said I wasn't comfortable with certain situations, messages where I'd tried to explain my feelings, set boundaries, ask for compromise. She'd caption them. "When your fiancé is a psycho who thinks having friends is cheating, dodged a bullet, vote in the poll." The poll gave 2 options: dump him now or dump him later. I sat on my parents' couch and watched my relationship get dissected by hundreds of strangers. Watched people who didn't know me, didn't know her, didn't know anything about our relationship beyond these carefully selected screenshots, vote on whether my fiancé should leave me. The vote was currently 73% for dump him now. My dad came in around midnight, found me staring at my phone. "Son?" I showed him. He read it in silence. Then he sat down next to me, and I was reminded that this man had served in combat, had seen things that would break most people, and still somehow maintained faith in humanity. But right now, his face looked like that faith was being tested. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "I don't know." "Yes, you do." I looked at him. "Dad, you know exactly what you need to do. You're just afraid to do it." He was right. Of course he was right. My phone buzzed. Jake, the PI. "Got some preliminary findings. You're going to want to see this. Can you meet tomorrow?" "Actually," I said to my dad, "I think I'm about to find out exactly what I need to do." Jake's office was in one of those nondescript buildings that housed accountants and insurance agents and people whose jobs involved a lot of paperwork and very little glamour. I met him there Sunday morning, Tyler insisting on coming with me for moral support. Jake was 50-something, gray-haired, with eyes that looked like they'd seen everything twice and weren't impressed either time. He gestured us into his office, and I noticed he had a file folder on his desk that looked concerningly thick. "Coffee?" he offered. "Just tell me," I said. He opened the folder. "Okay, where do you want to start? The financial stuff or the personal stuff?" "There's financial stuff?" "Oh, there's financial stuff." He pulled out a sheaf of papers. "Your fiancée, Jessica Palmer, age 29, works as a social media manager for a boutique marketing firm. Reported income last year, 65,000. Not bad, except, he tapped the papers. Her spending patterns indicate she's living well beyond that. Her mother has money," I said. "Does she?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "Patricia Palmer, age 56, divorced 8 years ago. Works as a realtor. Had a couple of good years before the market shifted, but according to tax records and property records, she's not exactly rolling in it. Nice house, yes, but with a mortgage that's underwater. Credit cards nearly maxed. 2 car payments. She's living on borrowed time and borrowed money." I blinked. Jessica told me her mom was wealthy. Not according to any objective measure, but here's where it gets interesting. He pulled out more papers. Jessica has credit card debt of approximately $47,000 across 6 cards. She's making minimum payments and has been for the last 2 years. She's also got a personal loan from an online lender, one of those predatory high-interest places, for $15,000. Default notices have been sent. The room tilted slightly. She never mentioned debt. Because you never asked? Or because she never told you? Both, I guess. Did you two discuss finances before getting engaged? She said she was good with money. She said her mom taught her to be financially independent. Tyler made a sound beside me that might have been a laugh or a curse. Here's what's interesting, Jake continued. 3 months ago, Jessica opened a joint account with Marcus Henderson. Silence. What? I finally managed. Joint checking account, both names on it. They've been transferring money back and forth. Not huge amounts, $200 here, $500 there, but consistent. Every 2 weeks, like clockwork. They're. I couldn't finish the sentence. Now, before you jump to conclusions, Jake held up a hand. I don't have proof they're romantically involved currently, but I do have proof they were involved financially, and I have proof of something else. He turned his laptop around, showed me a series of social media posts, some public, some that he'd apparently gotten access to through methods I didn't want to know about. Marcus Henderson, 32, investment banker, photos of him at expensive restaurants, on yachts, at charity galas. And in a significant number of these photos, from 2 years ago and earlier, Jessica. They dated for 3 years, Jake said. Broke up 18 months ago, right around the time you and Jessica got serious. She told me they dated briefly in college. Nope. They were together all through her 20s, lived together for 2 years. There's a lease with both their names on it. Only ended 12 months ago, actually. She was living with him while dating you. The coffee I hadn't drunk threatened to come up anyway. It gets better, Jake said, and his tone suggested it absolutely did not get better. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Marcus Henderson is engaged. What? Got engaged 6 months ago. To a woman named Stephanie Crawford. Wedding is planned for next summer. Which makes the joint account even more interesting, doesn't it? Tyler leaned forward. So Jessica and Marcus are both engaged to other people, but have a joint bank account, and have been seen having lunch together at least twice a month for the past year, Jake added, pulling up photos. These are from various times and locations. Always just the two of them. Always restaurants in neighborhoods where they're unlikely to run into people they know. I stared at the photos. Jessica, my fiancée, sitting across from her ex-boyfriend, laughing at something he'd said. Jessica reaching across the table to touch his hand. Jessica leaving a restaurant with him, walking close enough that their shoulders touched. But wait, Jake said. There's more. He pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, then handed it to me. Found this on Marcus's Instagram. It's from yesterday. It was a photo. Marcus and a group of guys at what looked like a golf course. The caption, bachelor party weekend with the boys, getting one last round in before the old ball and chain. The comments were the usual. Jokes about marriage, jokes about freedom, jokes about his fiancée. But one comment stood out. From Jessica's public account, some of us know how to have a real party, unlike some people who can't handle their partners having a life. And Marcus had replied, some partners are worth the trouble, others. Jessica had liked his comment. There's more context you need, Jake said. I spoke with some people who know them. Old friends, mutual acquaintances. The story I got was that Marcus broke up with Jessica because he wanted to focus on his career. She didn't take it well. There were some incidents, showing up at his apartment, calling him at work, messages to his dates. It settled down when she met you. I was a rebound. You were a band-aid, a way to make Marcus jealous and prove she'd moved on. But according to multiple sources, she never really did move on. She and Marcus stayed in contact, met up regularly, and he hesitated. And what? There are rumors they hooked up a few times after their official breakup. Nothing confirmed, but enough smoke to suggest fire. Tyler put a hand on my shoulder. Man, I'm sorry. I couldn't speak, couldn't process. Couldn't do anything but stare at this pile of evidence that my relationship, my engagement, my entire future had been built on a foundation of lies. There's one more thing, Jake said quietly, and this is going to hurt. More than all this, he pulled out a printed email. I have a contact who works at the marketing firm where Jessica works. She forwarded me this. It's an email thread from last week. The email was from Jessica to her coworker discussing the wedding. I started reading. Honestly, I'm not sure I even want to go through with it. Michael is nice enough, but he's so boring. Like, he's stable and kind, and his parents are sweet, but there's no passion. Not like there was with Marcus. But Marcus is getting married to that bitch Stephanie, so I guess I'm stuck with Michael. At least the wedding will look good on Instagram. And his parents are paying for half of it, so there's that. The coworker had responded, Girl, why are you marrying him then? Jessica, Because I'm almost 30 and everyone else is getting married and I'm tired of being alone at weddings. Plus, his family has money and connections. His dad knows people at all the major firms. It's a good strategic move, career-wise. And if Marcus sees me married and happy, maybe he'll realize what he lost. That's the real endgame here. I read it 3 times, then once more. Then I looked up at Jake, who was watching me with something like pity in his professional gaze. That's her work email? I said stupidly. Yep. She wrote that on company email. People get careless. They think work emails are private. I'm a strategic move. Appears so. Tyler took the paper from my hand before I could crumple it. We need to show this to people. Not yet, Jake said. You want my advice? Collect everything. Document everything. Don't tip your hand. She thinks she has all the power right now. Let her keep thinking that. She gave me an ultimatum, I said. I'm supposed to post a public apology by tonight. Then tonight you give her an answer. Jake leaned back in his chair, but not the one she's expecting. We spent the next 2 hours going through everything. Jake had been thorough. Financial record, social media analysis, interviews with mutual acquaintances, even credit reports. He'd found the joint account. He'd found the debt. He'd found the lies about her mother's wealth. He'd found evidence of continued contact with Marcus that went way beyond old friends. He'd even found text messages. I don't know how, didn't want to know how. But he had screenshots of text conversations between Jessica and Marcus going back months. Conversations about their lunches. Conversations about his engagement. Conversations where she called me boring and too clingy and a safe bet. Conversations where Marcus commiserated and called his own fiancée controlling and high maintenance. Conversations where they talked about meeting up after both weddings were done to celebrate our new lives. The phrase made my stomach turn. Here's what I recommend, Jake said. Compile all of this. Create a clean, organized presentation. Get legal advice. This might affect the wedding venue deposits, joint purchases, anything where you're financially entangled. And then, when you're ready, you present the evidence. To who? To everyone who needs to see it. Her friends who voted on whether you were worth keeping. Her mother who told you to learn your place. Your family who deserves to know the truth, and Jessica herself. This will humiliate her, I said. She publicly humiliated you, Tyler pointed out. She posted your private conversations. She had her friends vote on your relationship. She called you psychotic to thousands of people. She doesn't get to demand privacy now. But nothing, Tyler said firmly. You're still trying to protect her. After everything she's done, after everything you just learned, you're still making excuses for her. He was right. Even now, even with evidence of her lies spread across Jake's desk, part of me wanted to protect her from the consequences of her own actions. Wanted to have a quiet conversation, a private breakup, a dignified end. But she hadn't given me that courtesy. She'd made our relationship a public spectacle. She'd invited strangers to judge me. She'd posted our private messages for entertainment. Why was I still trying to take the high road when she'd burned the bridge? How much do I owe you? I asked Jake. He named a figure that made me wince but was probably worth every penny. I wrote him a check and took the flash drive he'd prepared, all the evidence neatly organized, impossible to refute. The weight of it in my pocket felt like carrying a bomb. What are you going to do? Tyler asked as we walked to the car. I checked my phone. It was 4 p.m. on Sunday. Jessica's ultimatum deadline was midnight. In 8 hours, I was supposed to post a public apology for the crime of having boundaries. I'm going to give her exactly what she asked for, I said. I'm going to post something public. An apology? Not exactly. I spent 3 hours writing it, rewrote it 6 times, showed it to Tyler, my parents, even my sister, who I'd been too embarrassed to tell about the bachelorette party vote. Each of them read it and said the same thing. Are you sure? Was I sure? Was I sure I wanted to blow up my life? Sure I wanted to expose everything? Sure I wanted to turn a private pain into public knowledge? I looked at the screenshots again, looked at the text where she called me a strategic move, looked at the bachelorette party video where her friends voted on whether I was worth keeping, looked at my wrist where the bruises from her grip were fading from purple to yellow. Yeah, oh sure. At 11:45 p.m., 15 minutes before her deadline, I posted. Not an apology, a timeline. I started with a simple statement. My fiancée, Jessica Palmer, gave me an ultimatum. Post a public apology for being controlling and psychotic, or the wedding is off. She posted our private conversations, had her friends vote on whether she should dump me, and publicly mocked me for having boundaries. She told my parents they raised me wrong and grabbed my wrist hard enough to leave bruises when I disagreed with her. I'm not going to apologize. Instead, I'm going to tell the truth. Below is a documented timeline of our relationship. Every screenshot is real. Every financial document is verified. Every quote is accurate. I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing this because I was told I was crazy for having concerns. I was told I was controlling for having boundaries. I was told I was pathetic for wanting respect. If you've ever been in a relationship where you questioned your own reality, this is for you. If you've ever been called jealous for noticing red flags, this is for you. If you've ever been told you're lucky someone even tolerates you, this is for you. This is what gaslighting looks like. This is what financial fraud looks like. This is what emotional manipulation looks like, and this is what happens when you finally decide to trust your gut. Then I posted it all. The screenshots of her texts with Marcus, going back 18 months, the evidence of their continued relationship, the photos of them together that she'd claimed were old pictures from when we were friends, the joint bank account statements, the email where she called me boring and strategic, the financial records showing her debt and her mother's debt, contrasted with their claims of wealth, the lease showing she'd lived with Marcus while dating me, the work emails where she discussed using me for career connections, the timeline of how her behavior had escalated from sweet to dismissive to cruel. Every piece of evidence Jake had found, organized chronologically, presented without embellishment. I didn't need to embellish. The facts spoke for themselves. And at the end, Jessica, you're right about one thing. This relationship is over. But not because I'm pathetic or controlling or psychotic. It's over because you lied about your ex, about your finances, about your mother, about your intentions, about everything. You wanted a public statement? Here it is. I'm not sorry for having boundaries. I'm not sorry for wanting respect. I'm not sorry for refusing to be manipulated. I'm not sorry for trusting my instincts. To everyone who voted on whether Jessica should dump me, thank you. You were right, she should. Because I deserve better than someone who treats love like a strategy game and partnership like a prison. The wedding is off, not because of my jealousy, because of your lies. I'm done. I hit post and I waited. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 5 minutes, I had 100 comments. Within 10, 500. Within 20, over 1,000. My phone became unusable from the notifications. Tyler texted, "Holy shit, dude. It's going viral." My sister called. My cousin called. People I hadn't spoken to in years were reaching out. Some to support. Some to ask if it was real. Some to say they'd always suspected something was off about Jessica. And then Jessica called. I didn't answer. She called again, and again, and again. 16 times in the first hour. Then the text started. "What the fuck did you do? Take that down right now. You psychotic asshole. This is defamation. I'm calling my lawyer. You're going to pay for this." Followed by, "Babe, please. We can talk about this. You're just hurt, I know. This isn't you. Please call me. I love you." I didn't respond. Instead, I turned off my phone and sat with my parents in their living room, watching my father flip through the documents Jake had provided, watching my mother read the post on her iPad, watching both of them process what had been happening to their son while they'd been planning a wedding. "I'm sorry," my mom said finally. "I'm so sorry we didn't see this sooner." "You couldn't have known. We knew she wasn't kind to you," my dad said. "We saw that. We should have said more. I wouldn't have listened. I trailed off. "I was in love. Or I thought I was. I don't even know anymore." "You were in love with who you thought she was," my mom said gently. "That's not the same as being in love with who she actually is." We sat in silence for a while. Then my phone, which I'd turned back on despite my better judgment, rang. Not Jessica this time. A number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Michael Mitchell?" A woman's voice, unfamiliar. "Yes." "This is Stephanie Crawford. I'm Marcus Henderson's fiancée. I saw your post. I need to talk to you." We met at a coffee shop the next morning. Stephanie Crawford was 31, an attorney, with the kind of precise presence that came from years of arguing in courtrooms. She sat down across from me with a laptop bag and an expression that suggested she'd already tried and convicted several people before breakfast. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. "You said you had information." I have a lot of information. She opened her laptop. I've suspected for months that Marcus was still involved with Jessica. He denied it. Called me paranoid, told me I was being controlling for asking why she kept texting him. Sound familiar? It did. God, it did. I hired someone to look into it, she continued. Nothing as thorough as your guy. I'm impressed by that, by the way. But enough to know they were still seeing each other. Lunches, coffee. Once, a weekend trip they both claimed were work-related but lined up suspiciously. Why are you telling me this? Because I saw your post last night and realized we've both been played. And because I want to return the favor. She turned the laptop around. Bank statements, joint account activities showing transfers between Marcus and Jessica going back 2 years. Not the recent ones Jake had found, older ones. Larger amounts. Including one transfer of $10,000 from Marcus to Jessica 6 months ago, labeled loan repayment. Loan repayment? I asked. That's what I thought too, and so I did some digging. Turns out Marcus loaned Jessica money 2 years ago. 50,000. Supposedly, to help her start a business that never materialized. She's been paying him back in installments, except the payment schedule coincidentally started right around when he got engaged to me. Hush money, or continued financial entanglement to keep her in his life. Either way, it's leverage. It's a reason for them to stay in contact that sounds legitimate. We have financial business together. I stared at the numbers. Did he tell you about this? Not until I confronted him with evidence. Then he claimed it was helping an old friend, and he didn't want to bother me with it. As if lending your ex-girlfriend $50,000 isn't worth mentioning to your fiancé. What did you do? I gave him a choice, her or me. He chose me, or so he said. But the lunches kept happening, the texts kept coming. And then I saw your post and realized she laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. We're both insurance policies. You're Jessica's backup plan in case Marcus doesn't work out. I'm Marcus's respectable choice while he keeps Jessica on the side. That's fucked up? Yeah. She pulled up more documents. I've been compiling my own evidence. Text messages I found on his iPad that he forgot to delete, restaurant receipts that don't match his calendar, credit card statements showing purchases that can't be explained. She showed me. Marcus had bought jewelry, expensive jewelry, that hadn't been given to Stephanie. He'd charged hotel rooms during times when he claimed to be working late. He'd made donations to charities in Jessica's name. What are you going to do? Ah, what you did, I'm ending it. But I want to do it right. I want irrefutable proof, and I want to make sure they can't spin this as us being jealous exes. So why did you contact me? Because if we coordinate our evidence, they can't deny it. If it's just me accusing Marcus, he'll say I'm a bitter ex. If it's just you accusing Jessica, she'll say you're controlling. But if both of us present evidence showing they've been playing both of us, that's a pattern. That's proof. She was right. She was absolutely right. We spent the next 3 hours combining our information. Stephanie had documentation of trips where Marcus and Jessica had been in the same city at the same time, claiming to be elsewhere. She had text messages where Marcus complained about me, calling me too uptight and not Jessica's type. She had credit card receipts from restaurants where they'd both checked in on social media, pretending to be with other people. Together, our evidence painted a picture of two people who'd never really ended their relationship, just paused it while they pursued better options and kept each other as backup plans. There's something else, Stephanie said. Marcus's bachelor party was this weekend, same as Jessica's bachelorette party. I know, I saw his Instagram. Did you see where it was? I hadn't paid attention. She showed me. The golf course, the restaurant, the hotel where they'd stayed. Then she pulled up Jessica's Instagram stories from her bachelorette party. The house they'd rented, the town it was in, the restaurant they'd gone to, same town. They'd planned their bachelorette parties in the same location, the same weekend. They saw each other, Stephanie said flatly. I'd bet money on it. Both of them sneaking away from their parties to meet up. Can you prove it? Not yet, but I'm working on it. One of Marcus's groomsmen is a friend of mine. I've asked him some careful questions. He mentioned Marcus disappeared for a few hours Saturday night, claimed he was sick. But his room key log, which I got from a contact at the hotel, shows he didn't go back to his room until 3 a.m. And Jessica? Check her posts. She was active on Instagram until about 10 p.m. Saturday, then nothing until 6 a.m. Sunday. That's an 8-hour gap for someone who'd been posting every hour all weekend. 8 hours. 8 hours where both of them had been in the same town, both unaccounted for, both with excuses ready about being tired or sick or needing space from their parties. We can't prove they were together, I said. Not with what we have now. But I'm betting if we look hard enough, we'll find something. A surveillance camera, a witness, a receipt. She looked at me. How thorough was your investigator? Very. Would he be willing to look into this? I thought about it. Thought about whether I wanted to know. Thought about whether knowing would change anything. The wedding was already off, the relationship already over, the evidence already damning enough. But then I thought about the bachelorette party vote, the public humiliation, the grab on my wrist, the post calling me psychotic. Yeah, I said he would. I called Jake from the coffee shop, explained what Stephanie had found, gave him the details of both parties, locations, times, hotels, restaurants. You want me to find out if they met up? He asked. I want to know the truth, all of it. Give me 48 hours. We gave him 48 hours. In the meantime, my post continued to explode. It had been shared thousands of times. Local news had picked it up. Man exposes fiance's financial fraud before wedding. Relationship bloggers were dissecting it. Reddit threads were analyzing every screenshot. TikTok videos were being made, people reading the timeline with commentary, and people were taking sides. Most supported me. Said they'd been in similar situations, had been gaslit the same way, understood exactly what I'd gone through. They shared their own stories of partners who called them crazy, controlling, jealous, right up until the evidence proved otherwise. But some supported Jessica. Said I was cruel for exposing her publicly. Said real love means working things out privately. Said I'd violated her privacy, ruined her reputation, destroyed her life for revenge. Those comments stung more than I wanted to admit, because part of me, the part that had loved her, that had wanted to marry her, felt guilty. Was this too much? Was I being vindictive? Was I any better than her if I was willing to humiliate her like this? Tyler found me spiraling on Tuesday night, reading comments, second-guessing everything. Stop, he said, physically taking my phone away. Stop doing this to yourself. But what if nothing? She humiliated you first. She posted your private conversations. She had her friends mock you. She called you psychotic to thousands of people. She grabbed you hard enough to bruise you. She lied to you about everything. You didn't do this for revenge. You did it for truth. It feels like revenge. Good. Maybe it should. Maybe she deserves to feel a fraction of what she made you feel. Maybe her friends who voted on you deserve to know who they were supporting. Maybe her mother who told you to learn your place deserves to see what her daughter really is. But no buts. You gave her every chance. You tried to set boundaries and got called controlling. You tried to communicate and got called pathetic. You tried to respect her past and got told you were jealous. At what point were you supposed to just accept being treated like garbage? I didn't have an answer. The guilt you're feeling? That's because you're a good person. Good people feel bad when they hurt others, even when those others deserve it. But don't mistake guilt for wrongdoing. You didn't make Jessica lie. You didn't make her manipulate you. You didn't make her keep secrets and hide a financial entanglement with her ex. You just exposed what was already there. Wednesday afternoon, Jake called. Found something, he said. You're going to want to sit down. I was already sitting. Tell me. Hotel security footage. Marcus Henderson checked into the hotel where his bachelor party was staying. At 10:37 p.m. Saturday night, he left through a side entrance. Came back at 2:43 a.m. Sunday morning. I've got him on camera. And Jessica? The house she rented doesn't have security cameras. But the restaurant where they had dinner Saturday night does. She left in an Uber at 10:15 p.m. According to the Uber receipt, which I obtained through a contact, she was dropped off at a hotel, the Fairmont, about 3 miles from where Marcus was staying. Could be coincidence? Could be. Except Marcus's credit card was charged at the Fairmont bar at 11:08 p.m. Then again for a room at 11:34 p.m. Room 412, which he didn't mention to any of his groomsmen, who all assumed he was sleeping off his sickness in his original room. My stomach dropped. You can prove this? I have credit card statements, security footage, Uber receipts. The hotel room was booked for one night under Marcus's name, and he paused. I have a witness, a bartender at the Fairmont who remembers them. Remembers because they were very affectionate, and he thought they were a couple celebrating something. He mentioned it because the guy was wearing a bachelor party wristband and the woman had a bride-to-be sash. And he thought it was cute. They were getting married to each other. Oh my God. Yeah. So unless there's a very innocent explanation for why your ex-fiancée and her ex-boyfriend both lied about their whereabouts, disappeared for the same 4-hour window, and ended up at the same hotel where he rented a room, I think we know what happened. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, trying to process this. They'd planned it. While I was at home, dealing with the fallout from her public humiliation of me, while Stephanie was probably sleeping peacefully, trusting her fiancé. While their respective friends partied, thinking they were celebrating upcoming marriages, Jessica and Marcus had sneaked away to be together. Send me everything, I said. Already done. Check your email. And Michael, I'm sorry, I know this isn't what you wanted to find, but it was what I needed to find. Because now there was no ambiguity, no room for doubt, no way to second guess myself or wonder if I'd overreacted. I forwarded everything to Stephanie. She called me 5 minutes later. I'd never heard someone sound that calm while clearly being that furious. I'm ending it today, she said. I'm going to his office. I'm going to present all of this. And then I'm going to make sure everyone he works with knows exactly who he is. Stephanie, I'm an attorney, Michael. I know how to do this without committing slander. I know how to present facts, and these are facts. Okay. Are you going to update your post? Was I? I'd already exposed Jessica's lies, her financial fraud, her manipulation. Did I need to add this? Did anyone need to know about the hotel room? Yes, I said. People deserve to know the full truth. Good, because I'm about to make my own post. And I want to tag you in it, show that this was a pattern, show that we were both victims of the same con. She did. That evening, Stephanie Crawford posted her own timeline. Photos of Marcus and Jessica together, recent ones. Bank statements showing the financial entanglement. Text messages showing his complaints about her being controlling. Credit card receipts from restaurants and hotels. The Uber receipt. The hotel charge. The security footage screenshots showing timestamps and locations. And her own statement. My fiancé, Marcus Henderson, has been carrying on a relationship with his ex-girlfriend Jessica Palmer while engaged to me. They met up during our bachelorette parties, sharing a hotel room while both claimed to be sick, tired. They've maintained a joint bank account and regular contact throughout our relationship. Michael Mitchell exposed Jessica's lies yesterday. I'm here to confirm every word was true, and add that Marcus was just as guilty. To everyone who told Michael he was being paranoid, he wasn't. To everyone who told him to trust Jessica, she didn't deserve it. To everyone who voted that Jessica should dump him, congratulations, you supported a woman having an affair with her ex while engaged to someone else. This is what happens when people gaslight you into thinking your instincts are wrong, when they call you jealous for noticing red flags, when they make you feel crazy for asking questions. Michael and I were both lied to, both manipulated, both told we were controlling for having boundaries. We're both done. Jessica Palmer and Marcus Henderson deserve each other. And we deserve better. She tagged me, tagged Jessica, tagged Marcus. The internet exploded. What happened next happened fast. Within an hour of Stephanie's post, Marcus's employer, a major investment bank, announced he'd been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into conduct unbecoming. Apparently, infidelity wasn't the issue, so much as the joint bank account with someone who wasn't his fiancé, which raised questions about financial ethics and conflicts of interest. Jessica's employer was quieter about it, but her LinkedIn was quickly updated to remove her position. Someone in the comments of Stephanie's post claimed to be her former coworker and said she'd been asked to resign because the work emails I'd posted violated company policy about using work systems for personal matters. Both of them had made their Instagram accounts private. Too late. Screenshots of their profiles, their posts, their comments about their respective controlling partners had already been saved and shared and dissected across multiple platforms. Jessica's mother posted a long, rambling defense of her daughter on Facebook. Claimed I was a vindictive ex spreading lies. Claimed the evidence was fabricated. Claimed I'd manipulated Jessica. Claimed her daughter was the real victim here. The post lasted about 3 hours before someone linked to the financial records showing Patricia Palmer's own debt and her claims of wealth. Someone else found court records from her divorce showing she'd been found to have hidden assets and lied under oath. Someone else posted screenshots of her telling people on social media that she was a successful realtor while her license was actually suspended for ethics violations. Patricia Palmer's defense of her daughter ended up becoming evidence of where Jessica learned her behavior. Marcus's parents released a brief statement through their attorney. We are deeply disappointed in our son's actions and extend our apologies to Stephanie Crawford and Michael Mitchell. This does not reflect the values we raised him with. It was corporate, distant, the kind of statement that protected them while abandoning him. Jessica's father, who'd been divorced from Patricia for 8 years and whom I'd only met twice, called me. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry she turned out like her mother. I tried to warn her, but Patricia had primary custody and I'm just sorry. It's not your fault, isn't it? I left. I knew Patricia was toxic, knew she was teaching Jessica terrible things, and I left anyway. I chose peace over fighting for my daughter. And now look what happened. I didn't know what to say to that. The guilt in his voice was real, painful, old. Jessica reached out, he continued, asked me to defend her publicly. I said no. She called me a coward and hung up. Which, fair enough. I probably am a coward, but I'm not going to lie for her. Not about this. Thank you for calling, I said. For what it's worth, you dodged a bullet. A nuclear missile, really. Patricia destroyed my life with her lies and manipulation. I'm glad you got out before Jessica could do the same to you. After we hung up, I sat with that for a while. The generational cycle of it. Patricia teaching Jessica that men were tools to be used, that love was transactional, that manipulation was strategy. Jessica learning those lessons so well, she'd almost destroyed 2 lives, mine and Stephanie's, in her pursuit of what? Marcus? Security? Some fantasy of winning a game that nobody else knew they were playing? My own parents came over that evening. My mother had been fielding calls from relatives who'd seen the posts, from wedding vendors asking what to do about deposits, from friends who wanted to know if I was okay. I'm okay, I told her, and meant it. I'm better than okay. I'm free. You don't have to be strong for us, she said gently. I'm not being strong, I'm being honest. For the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe. Like I'm not constantly walking on eggshells or second-guessing myself or wondering what I did wrong. You didn't do anything wrong, my father said firmly, except maybe not listen to your gut sooner. Maybe. Tyler came by later with pizza and beer. We sat in my apartment, the apartment Jessica had been pushing me to let her move into, the apartment I'd resisted for reasons I couldn't articulate but now understood completely, and watched the internet continue its dissection of the situation. You're famous, Tyler said, in a weird, sad way. You're famous. I don't want to be famous. Too late. You're the guy who exposed his cheating fiancée with receipts. You're a legend. I'm a cautionary tale. Potato, potato. He raised his beer. To freedom, I echoed. My phone buzzed. I'd changed my number, had to after the old one got leaked and I started receiving hundreds of calls and texts from strangers, but I'd given the new one to select people. This was from an unknown contact. Please, we need to talk. Just you and me. Let me explain. Jessica. She must have gotten my new number from someone. I showed Tyler. You're not going to respond, right? I'm going to respond. Man, not to meet up, just to say one thing. I typed, there's nothing to explain and nothing to discuss. You lied. You cheated. You manipulated me and humiliated me. You grabbed me hard enough to bruise me. You told my parents they failed at raising me. You had your friends vote on whether I was worth keeping. And you spent our entire relationship using me as a backup plan while trying to get back together with Marcus. I know all of it. Thanks to you being careless with work emails, and thanks to Stephanie sharing her evidence. I know about the hotel, I know about the affair, I know everything. Don't contact me again. We're done. We were always done. I just didn't realize it until you showed me who you really were. I hit send before I could second guess it. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again, then disappeared. No response came. Thursday morning brought new developments. Someone had created a TikTok account called The Narcissist's Playbook. that was breaking down Jessica's behavior pattern by pattern, identifying the manipulation tactics, the gaslighting, the Darvo deny attack reverse victim and offender, the triangulation, the love bombing followed by devaluation, the public humiliation disguised as just being honest. The account had 500,000 followers in 24 hours. A podcast called Red Flags and Revenge did an entire episode on the situation. Brought in a psychologist to discuss emotional abuse, a financial expert to discuss the implications of hiding debt, and a private investigator, not Jake, but someone else in the field, to discuss what happens when people maintain secretive relationships with exes. A YouTube essayist with 3 million subscribers made a 40-minute video titled When Your Instincts Are Right, the case of Jessica Palmer and weaponized incompetence. It analyzed everything from the initial dinner with my parents to the final hotel room revelation. I was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. My face wasn't public, I hadn't posted photos of myself. But my story was being told and retold, dissected and analyzed, turned into lessons and warnings and cautionary tales. Jessica and Marcus had both disappeared from social media entirely. Their accounts were either deleted or so locked down that no one could find them. Stephanie texted me. Marcus tried to call, blocked him. His parents tried to contact me through my firm, told them to go through my attorney. I'm done negotiating with people who think lying is strategy. Me. How are you holding up? Her. Better than I thought I would. Angry but also relieved. Found out he was trash before I married him. Could have been worse. Me. Yeah, could have been worse. Her. Thank you for posting what you did. If you hadn't, I might have married him. Might have spent years wondering why I felt crazy for noticing things. You saved me from that. Me. You would have figured it out eventually. Her. Maybe, but this way was faster and public, and he can't gaslight his way out of it. So thank you. Friday brought the final piece of the puzzle. Jake called. You're going to want to hear this. What now? Got a call from an attorney representing Jessica Palmer. They're threatening to sue you for defamation, invasion of privacy, and emotional distress. My stomach dropped. Can they do that? They can try, but here's the thing. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. Everything you posted was factual and backed by evidence. The financial records are real, the screenshots are real, and the work emails are real. And you didn't hack anything or obtain anything illegally. You either had access to it already, or it was given to you by third parties. So they can't win? They'd have to prove you lied. They can't. They'd have to prove you obtained the evidence illegally. You didn't. They'd have to prove you acted with malicious intent rather than to correct false public statements she made about you. Good luck with that, given she posted your private conversations first. So why are they threatening to sue? Because it's their only play. They want to scare you into taking down the posts, into backing down, into letting them control the narrative again. What should I do? Nothing. Tell them to pound sand. If they want to sue, they can sue, and then everything comes out in discovery. All of it, including anything else they've been hiding. Most attorneys won't touch this case because it's a loser and because it'll just generate more publicity for their client's bad behavior. Should I get an attorney? Wouldn't hurt to consult with one. I can recommend someone, but honestly, this is a bluff. They're hoping you're scared enough to comply. I thought about it. Thought about taking down the posts. Thought about letting it fade away. Thought about trying to move on quietly. Then I thought about the bachelorette party vote, the bruises on my wrist, the words, "You need to learn your place." Tell them I'm not taking anything down, I said. Tell them if they want to sue, I'll see them in court. And tell them that discovery goes both ways. I've got evidence I didn't post that'll come out if this goes to trial. Jake chuckled. I'll pass that along, but phrased more legally. The threatened lawsuit never materialized. Turns out Jake was right. No attorney wanted to touch it. Jessica's threat was empty, just like so many of her other threats had been. Just noise meant to control, to intimidate, to make me back down. But I was done backing down. 3 weeks after the post went viral, life started to feel almost normal again. The internet had moved on to new drama, new scandals, new stories. My phone stopped buzzing every 30 seconds. The news cycle shifted. The podcast episodes dried up. I'd gotten my life back, or at least a version of it. The wedding venue released our deposits without argument. Turns out having documentation of infidelity and fraud makes vendors very amenable to refunds. The caterer, the photographer, the florist, all quietly returned money and wished me well. My parents had sent back every gift that had arrived early, included notes that said simply, "Wedding canceled. Thank you for thinking of us." I'd heard through mutual friends that Jessica had moved back in with her mother, that she'd lost her job, that she was having trouble finding new employment because potential employers kept Googling her and finding everything. Marcus had apparently left the city entirely, moved back to his parents' place in Connecticut. His engagement to Stephanie was obviously over. His career in finance was likely over too. The ethics questions and administrative leave had turned into a quiet resignation. Some people said I should feel bad about that, about the fact that my post had consequences that rippled beyond just ending a relationship. I didn't. Maybe that made me cold. Maybe that made me vengeful. But I'd watched them both manipulate and lie and hurt people without remorse. I'd watched them call their victims jealous and controlling and psychotic for noticing the truth. If the consequences of their own actions destroyed their lives, that wasn't on me. I didn't make them lie, didn't make them cheat, didn't make them create the elaborate web they'd spent years maintaining. I just shone a light on it. Stephanie and I met for coffee one last time, about a month after everything had gone down. "How are you?" she asked. "Good, actually. Better than good. I started therapy." Yeah. Needed to work through some stuff. Figure out how I ended up in a relationship like that. How I ignored so many red flags. How I let myself be convinced my instincts were wrong. Find any answers? Some. Mostly that I valued peace over truth, valued being liked over being respected. I was so afraid of being called controlling or jealous that I let someone control and manipulate me instead. She nodded slowly. I did the same thing. Marcus would accuse me of being paranoid, and I'd back down immediately because I didn't want to be that girlfriend, the suspicious one, the one who couldn't trust. They use our own values against us, I said. They know that good people don't want to be controlling, so they call every boundary controlling. They know honest people doubt themselves when accused of paranoia, so they use that doubt to hide their lies. Exactly. We sat for a moment. Two people who'd been through the same con emerged on the other side, scarred but wiser. "What are you going to do now?" I asked. "I'm moving," she said. "Applied for a position at a firm in Seattle. Fresh start, new city, no memories of Marcus around every corner." "That sounds good. What about you?" "I'm staying. This is my city, my home. I'm not letting what she did chase me out." I paused. "But I am taking some time. No dating. No relationships, just figuring out who I am when I'm not constantly defending my reality to someone else. That's healthy. It's necessary." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Thank you for having the courage to post what you did, for trusting your gut, for showing me that I wasn't crazy. Thank you for backing me up, for showing it was a pattern, not just me being paranoid." "We survived," she said. We did. After she left, I sat in that coffee shop for a while, watching people come and go. Couples laughing together, some genuine, some perhaps not. Friends chatting, sharing secrets, building connections. A woman working alone on her laptop, focused and peaceful. I thought about Jessica's final text, the one I'd ignored. "You ruined my life." But I hadn't. She'd ruined her own life. I'd just documented it. There's a difference between revenge and truth. Revenge is about hurting someone because they hurt you. Truth is about correcting lies. I didn't post to hurt her, though yes, it did hurt her. I posted because she'd made me question my own sanity. She'd made my family question whether they'd raised me wrong. She'd made strangers vote on my worth as a partner. And all of it had been based on lies. The truth is never the villain. The truth is just the truth. If someone's life falls apart when the truth comes out, that's not the truth's fault. That's theirs. I drove home as the sun was setting, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink and purple. Pulled into my parking space and sat for a moment, engine off, just breathing. My phone buzzed. Tyler. "Beer and pizza tonight? New place opened up." "Yeah," I typed back. "That sounds good." I got out of the car and headed inside, leaving the setting sun behind me, walking toward whatever came next. The beach was quieter in October. The summer crowds had fled, leaving behind the locals and the people who preferred their ocean views without the chaos. I sat on the sand, watching the waves roll in, breathing in the salt air, feeling the last warmth of the afternoon sun on my face. My therapist had recommended this: finding peace in solitude, learning to be comfortable alone, rebuilding my sense of self without defining myself through someone else's eyes. It had taken months, months of therapy sessions where I unpacked every text message, every argument, every moment I'd questioned my reality. Months of learning to recognize manipulation tactics, of understanding why I'd been vulnerable to them, of building defenses against ever falling into that trap again. I'd learned about attachment styles and trauma bonding and cognitive dissonance. Learned that people like Jessica don't start out cruel. They start out charming, attentive, perfect. They learn your vulnerabilities and then exploit them. They make you feel special until you're invested, and then they make you feel crazy when you notice inconsistencies. I'd learned that I wasn't weak for falling for it. I was human. Humans want to believe the people they love are telling the truth. Humans want to trust. That's not a flaw. That's what makes us capable of connection. The flaw is in the people who weaponize that trust. I'd also learned that I didn't need closure from Jessica, didn't need her to apologize or explain or acknowledge what she'd done. The truth was its own closure, and the evidence was its own explanation. Her silence was its own acknowledgement. My phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it. I'd gotten better about being present, about not letting technology interrupt moments of peace. But I did check it. Stephanie. We'd stayed in touch occasionally, not often, but enough to know we'd both come out the other side. Hey, wanted to let you know, got engaged. I smiled, texted back, congratulations, tell me about him. His name is David. He's a teacher. Patient, kind, honest. Introduced me to his ex-girlfriend in the first month of dating because he wanted me to know they were friends and he had nothing to hide. Tells me when he's stressed instead of blaming me for his moods. Respects my boundaries. It's so easy, like breathing. That's how it should be, I typed. I know that now. Thank you for helping me learn that. You helped me learn it too. How are you doing? I looked out at the ocean, at the endless expanse of water and sky, at the sunset painting everything gold. I'm good, I wrote. Really good. Taking things slow, no rush, just learning to be myself again. Proud of you, she sent back. Proud of us, I replied. I put the phone away and stood up, brushing sand off my jeans. Started walking along the beach, no destination in mind, just moving. I thought about the man I'd been a year ago, the man who'd sat in an expensive restaurant and listened to his fiancée call him pathetic, the man who'd made excuses and questioned his instincts and accepted treatment that made him smaller with every passing day. I thought about the moment I'd decided to stop accepting it, the moment I'd called Jake, the moment I'd written that post, the moment I'd chosen truth over peace. It hadn't been easy. The aftermath had been brutal in its own way. The publicity, the judgment, the internet's dissection of my life. I'd been called a hero and a villain, praised and condemned, held up as an example of both perfect revenge and toxic masculinity depending on who was doing the talking. But I'd survived it. More than that, I'd grown from it. I'd learned that setting boundaries doesn't make you controlling. Noticing patterns doesn't make you paranoid. Trusting your instincts doesn't make you jealous. And refusing to be manipulated doesn't make you weak. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes it means exposing lies. Sometimes it means choosing yourself over someone who's been choosing themselves all along while pretending it was about you. Jessica and Marcus had deserved each other. They deserved the web of lies they'd woven and the consequences that came when it unraveled. They deserved to have their patterns exposed and their manipulations revealed. And I deserved better. Stephanie had deserved better. We'd both found better by first finding the courage to demand it. The sun touched the horizon, sending ribbons of orange and red across the water. I stopped walking and just watched, taking in the moment, breathing it in. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new chances, new choices. But tonight I stood on a beach at sunset, alone but not lonely, free from lies, carrying nothing but the truth and the future. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough. If you've ever been told you're too jealous for noticing red flags, you're not. If you've ever been called controlling for setting boundaries, you're not. If you've ever been made to feel pathetic for wanting respect, you're not. Your instincts are there for a reason. Your boundaries matter. Your feelings are valid. And if someone can't love you while respecting those things, they don't actually love you. They love the version of you that doesn't question them. They love the control. They love having someone who will accept less than they deserve. Real love doesn't require you to doubt yourself. Real love doesn't make you smaller. Real love doesn't keep secrets or maintain backup plans or grab your wrist hard enough to bruise when you disagree. Real love is easy, like breathing, and if it's not real. I learned that the hard way, but I learned it. And now I carry that truth with me, along with the scars that prove I survived the learning. The wedding never happened. The relationship is dead and buried, but I'm still here, standing on a beach, watching the sun set on what was, waiting for the dawn of what comes next. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything.